Hi, welcome to our webinar session today. We're the Love PLM. We're working with the PLM fashion software. And my name is Lisa. I'm working as a sales manager for the German-speaking markets. So within the last year, we have been in dialogue with our brands from the Netherlands, from Germany, and also here in Scandinavia. And what we heard is that they're taking now a full shift towards digitalization, and they're not shying away from trends and new technologies. So now in times where we cannot work in the office and we're remote and we can travel so much, it's more than ever important to be connected again through technology. So today joining me in this session is my colleague Rike, Head of Digital Innovations at the Log.
Hi, I'm glad to be here to share some insights of the trends going on right now, but also what's coming in the near future.
"2020 was a very special year for all of us, but I think especially for the fashion industry. And also according to a lot of fashion reports, it was stated that last year will be remembered as the year that the industry had to take a 5-year jump into digitalization. So Rike, having worked in the industry for 15 years, how do you feel about this statement and can you validate it?
I can definitely validate it. I think we've made a big jump in the 2020 in terms of technology. Back when I started in the industry 15 years ago, we didn't have this focus. It was, if you could work in Illustrator, it was a skill. There was not this awareness of product data and having the accurate information as we have today. Mm-hmm. So I definitely see that the demand of having valid product data, delivering information to the e-commerce, accurate information, updated information is a trend or request that came up last year.
So it's less a trend but more requirement from the industry now.
Yeah, it's kind of a default. If you want to survive this, you need to speed up in having these things prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. So this pandemic accelerated this trend as we've never seen it before. And actually, according to the McKinsey State of Fashion, it was stated that e-commerce sales jumped from 16% to 29%, and they're expected to accelerate even more in the next year. So what do you think? What does it take to stay at the pace of this development?
Yeah, well, I see 3 main topics. First of all, to have valid product data, information about your products, including a great storytelling of your product. Then the visual part of the product, nice pictures, 3D illustrations, turnable images. And lastly, but not least, transparency. There is a huge demand of transparency, and the big players out there demands that you can prove that you have a sustainable value chain.
So let's dig deeper now into these 3 examples that you've just given. So the first area where you see a lot of improvement will be product information. So how do you think brands can now use technology to improve the efficiency and the depth of this information?
Yeah. Well, I see a trend of connecting all the different solutions. In the past, it was like data silos where you had the product development, you had the marketing team and the sales team, and these teams need to be connected and the data needs to be connected so you don't sit in each department and fill in the same information. And the e-commerce players out there and the big retailers, they also demand this information. So you have to think of from the very beginning of your product development process, how can we create product data that can be used in the full chain until the product ends up with the consumer. Secondly, the storytelling of a product. It also starts with the product development. You cannot ask or demand the marketing team to come up with a nice story of a product if it doesn't come from those who gave birth to the product. So I think it's very important that all the knowledge of a product from the product development team goes into the story of the product, because at the end, when you sit as a consumer looking at a web shop, you have to find something that makes this dress unique. Why should I buy this black dress compared to another black dress. And it starts with the product development. So connecting the dots from the product development until it ends up with the consumer becomes more and more critical, I would say.
Yeah. And also, and on that point, you were just talking about connecting basically the different data silos to like one chain, like product information chain.
Yeah.
So this will also improve transparency immensely when all of the data is always visible and exchanged along the line. So do you also see this as one of the most crucial points within the next year, that transparency is improved?
Definitely. And I see a challenge out there because one thing is the end product, but in a lot of companies, knowing all the details of all the subparts of a product and tracking the details of what was the cotton produced, who washed it, and so on, is something that a lot of companies are looking into right now, and also struggling. How can we connect the dots in the full supply chain to give this transparency to the consumer at the end, that they can see how did this product come to life.
Especially in the last year, where I think the consumer behavior also changed a lot towards shopping more sustainable materials or sustainable products.
Definitely.
So the brands have to react to this demand also that is coming from the consumer sides, who are more and more interested in the composition and the origins of what they're buying.
Definitely. And we have also seen customers having e-commerce players demanding that they can show a certificate of how was this product made. So you can actually end up in a situation, if you cannot prove this, you lose sales, and then another brand will simply just get the sales. So so it is moving closer and closer, I would say, as a demand.
But also the online shopping went through the roof last year, including myself. So how does that sit with the topic sustainability when you have all of these parcels that are getting returned, or like really high return rates?
Yeah, and I think it's a challenge that they have a focus on, the big e-commerce players, because that's where they're going to make the money if they can reduce the return rates. And one thing where they focus is on the measurements of the products, the fit and the size. And of course, you can provide this information of your product measures. But we also see apps coming up where you can actually measure your body with an app, and then it will tell you how the product will fit for you. So
yeah, let us look at some of these examples that Rika just mentioned.
So the first example I want to show is Organic Basic, because they have really taken transparency and sustainability to another level. First of all, they have made a low impact website where they actually focus on how they can reduce the CO2 consumption of a website. If you look into the products, you see that they leave out the images and just have a simple drawing of this style. Yeah. And what's nice here is that they actually also tell a very nice story and a detailed story about the products. From which material does it come from? How does it fit? How was it made? And so on. So this is a really great example of how a brand can tell a story about the product in terms of transparency and also sustainability. And it doesn't just come to the brand. It could also be an e-commerce player or a big retailer who needs to tell a story about the product they're selling, because they have multiple brands that needs to promote themselves. Another simple example here is how you can show your measurements of your products. It seems simple, but we see a lot of companies out there struggling providing this information because they don't have it available. It's only in the product development team they have this information, but they cannot distribute it. So we have had quite an amount of requests from our customers being able to deliver this information to the big e-commerce players. And if we take this request of measures to another level, there are multiple apps out there, but this is an example of an app where you can actually download an app as a consumer, and then when you are out shopping, you can check how does this fit on me.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So But we haven't seen this in full scale yet, but it will definitely come. And I think as a brand, you need to prepare for this. And as a retailer and e-commerce player, you also have to think of how you can build this into your web shop.
Let's go to your second point, how you present the products. So you've been talking a lot to customers of ours like JBS, and they're working with 3D. And so what kind of step have they taken now to improve the visualization of their products?
Yeah, well, in the past, and still, of course, you do like a normal pack shot of a physical sample. What we've seen the last year is development of 3D, how it's used in the marketing material, and maybe even to replace a real model, a photo shoot, because you cannot travel. So you have to think of new solutions. So I think that's the first step of getting 3D in as a part of your development process, is how we see it's used in the marketing department. And the example I brought today is JBS that actually used a real model, but then they put on 3D clothes to do photo shoots. And it's actually quite difficult to see. Yeah, it's not real. So yeah.
To give you an understanding what this looks like, we have prepared an example for you. So let's have a look at that.
So what you see here, Lisa, is an example of how JBS used a real model, but then with the 3D clothes on top of him. And as you can imagine, you will be able to save a lot of cost if you can reduce the amount of samples and visualize your products like this. But we also see, of course, a lot of companies out there struggling getting started with 3D. So it is possible to team up with external partners who are really skilled in 3D to get started with this in the sales and marketing department if you are not a 3D skilled designer yet.
So yeah, it's great also that we have this platform here today to have a digital fashion week and to bring all the brands and retailers together. And also out there are so many ways they're looking into now, how to bring life digitally back to the industry. And for example, runway shows, right? We don't really have them at the moment, but I mean.
Well, actually, it is possible because you can do like a 360 recording, either of a fashion show or your showroom or whatever you want to present. So you can actually bring life into to your products in that way, and you don't have to do it in 3D design. You can actually do a live recording of it. So that's a great alternative to start working in a 3D environment with live images. I've seen a nice concert of a Danish artist, Olan. So let's try to have a look at this, and I think you can easily adapt this to fashion as well. Because by this concert, you can actually sit in your sofa and watch an Olan concert.
That's really nice,
Exactly.
especially in these times when there's not much to do.
Exactly, and I think as a brand or as a retailer, you can easily adapt this technology and bring a story into the living room of the consumers.
And it makes it more accessible for a broader range of consumers as well. So it's not so limited to just one consumer group.
Exactly. So here is another example of how you can use the 360 recordings of a showroom or your store. So you can actually walk around here, and then you can put hotspots in your 360 recordings.
So in times when retail shops are closed,
this is a great idea to have a tour around. So it's very similar to Google Street View. It's just within a shop.
And you also see the setting and the curation ideas, basically.
Exactly. So you get the full branding experience by doing this.
Nice. So let's just wrap it all up what we talked about before we head further into the future. So we're talking about enhancing product information, which will be one of the core areas to focus on next year. Of course, this goes hand in hand with transparency, to know where the materials, where the products are coming from along the whole value chain. That's one big area. The other big area is 3D and the visualization of products, which will play a major role also through the sampling processes and also for marketing. So let's leave this behind and let's go even one step further. What do you think else is out there that will come into the industry as a technological development, or what will be new?
Well, I think first of all, the focus of having 3D designer skills within the company will be a focus. The school's already educating in 3D, but it's still not rolled out yet, I would say, in the industry. That will be a focus, and by that also 3D as a full part of the development process. That from the very beginning, when you start up a product, it's developed in 3D, because that will also ease your life further on when you have to present the product. But you can actually take it even further with AR, and I don't know if you're familiar with AR, but it's augmented reality, so you can place a product in your living room without it's there, and you can walk around it with your mobile. And get a full experience of the product by this.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And actually, data from Shopify show that products having AR content showed a 94% higher conversion rate than products without AR, and that the conversion rates increased by 250% for products that are supported by try-on technologies. So, what are try-on technologies exactly, Bigger?
Yeah, well, it's a step further, I would say, and it's a bit more tricky when you come when it comes to fashion, because our body can move. It's easier if you have a lamp, you can place it on a table and it's there. So try-on technology is a way for you as a consumer to try to fit a dress or a pair of shoes. And actually, I brought this example to show you how Gucci are using try-on technology for shoes. So you can sit and try out the shoes.
Also, if you don't have the budget, you can at least try it out on the app.
Exactly.
Let's look at it.
I mean, it works quite well. I mean, of course, you have to be a little bit more like, you shouldn't move around too much. But I mean, this gives you a really nice impression. Exactly. You can also turn your foot and you can see it from different angles.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think the challenge here with what I've seen from brands is that you have to make a proof of return of investment here. So will this actually create a conversion?
Yeah.
So going back to the AR, this is another example where it's not on your body, but it's in the room. So just like you have IKEA, where you can put your sofa, you can actually here put a product in your living room and have a walk around it.
With the AR Fashion Assist. Whether in a park, on the subway, or on the couch, shopping on the go has become a very common activity. However, the visualization of fashion items, particularly on smaller smartphone screens, is still not that satisfying. That's where the various advantages of augmented reality can actively enhance the overall shopping experience.
Besides AR, you can also use the 3D files and bring them into life. So having like a catwalk or some kind of animation of your products to present them more alive. And I brought some examples here. For instance, Hummel, one of our customers, how they presented a new collection. You can see they haven't given any identity to the avatar.
Yeah, it's just about the product and how the product is
exactly moving. Yeah. They have taken it even further. You can go into a virtual locker room to tell the story of Everton. So, and this is of course working better if you look with VR glasses.
Yeah.
Then you get the full experience. But then you can walk around and have a little story of each of the players.
That is amazing.
So in this jump of going digital, there are actually brands who've taken it even further.
Even further? So like with both feet into digitalization?
Well, yeah, you can say it's called digital only.
Okay.
Meaning that you can only buy the product digital.
Okay.
So you can buy a dress or a pair of shoes and wear it in your digital profile.
Okay. So now I start feeling a bit old, even though I always thought I'm a digital native. But I think last year, I guess it's very hard right now to just keep up with the pace of digital development that is going on. But I think we have to get used to it. And I think it will also ease in our life a lot more. So I would love to see what digital only means. Do we have an example?
Yeah, so this is an example, Lisa. And I'm that old that I know Buffalo from back in the days.
Trust me, we also know them.
So, but this is a new version of it where you can only buy it digital.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so for $30, it's yours.
Wow.
Limited, only 100 pairs. So you have to speed up. So this is a brand that exists in physical life, but also digitally with products. And another example where it's born digital is this dress. And it's actually mentioned quite sometimes out there because it was sold for $9,500 US.
Oh, wow.
And it doesn't exist in the real life.
Who bought this dress? Do you know that?
Well, I think it was a wife of some Bitcoin founder.
Okay, yeah, interesting. But but it sounds like this is not really mainstream media fashion, right? So how do you feel about this? Do you actually think consumers will respond to this kind of product presentation and digital only products?
I'm pretty sure that there's a target group out there for this. But I think it will be interesting to see how this will become mainstream or not.
And how the consumers are growing into it.
Yes, exactly. So if we take this digital only to another level, there's actually a new concept out there called CGI influencers. And it's simply computer generated influencers. It's not people existing. It's created out of avatars and AI. So you can actually build up your brand by having your perfect model created with AI.
So that was a lot of information, and it probably also seems at times a bit overwhelming to think about, okay, there is all this technology out there, but where do we actually start with this and how do we move forward? So we would like to leave you with 3 key points that you can focus on as a recommendation in order to move forward. So would you like to wrap it up?
Sure. Point 1, get your product data straight. Make sure that you can provide the accurate information about your products to the e-commerce players, to retailers. Bring the story of the product out there. Secondly, get to know 3D. Don't be afraid of it. Join some courses. Join partners who knows 3D. Get started, maybe just in marketing, but over time also in product development. And lastly but not least, I think we have to rethink how the sales cycle or the life cycle of a product is. That all these opportunities out there will actually turn it upside down. That maybe you can sell a product before you make samples, or you can have votes for the consumers. You can even have consumers customizing the products before you make them. So I think we need to change our mindset of how do we sell products, how do we develop them, and how do we interact with the market. So that was maybe a little long, 3 bullet points, but yeah.
No, but thanks, Rika. I think it was a really good guidance. And also thank you today for joining us in this webinar. If you want to reach out to us, to Delog directly, and maybe talk about your product information, then feel free to reach out to me, Lisa, or visit our website, delog.com. Thank you very much for joining today.